Ladies.
I'm going to call them up in a few minutes. No, stand over here. Good.
Okay.
Are we ready or not yet? Is everyone in? Good to see everyone. Ladies, I can't believe this full house in the summer when everyone's in the country. This alone is Mashiach Zeit. Whoa, give yourselves a round of applause. I'm impressed. I said, Mindy, don't call me till like a few people are here, right? She goes, Miriam, they're here. I don't know where they're coming from. They're here. So Yasha Kayak to all of you. Okay, if everybody could just find a seat, make yourselves comfortable. We've got a fabulous night ahead. Hi, love. Good to see you. You're gorgeous. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Amen. You too. Thank you. Okay. Mindy, we can't get more in here. Mindy, we can't get more ladies in here. On the more ladies.
After the corner, that is in the bag.
Okay. Okay. Wow, I can't believe this. Wall to wall. This is fantastic. Okay. I don't even have to do a countdown. Usually we go like 9, 8, 7, 6. Forget it. You're here. You're quiet. This is like, wow. Ladies and girls of Crown Heights and our sister neighborhoods who came from near and far, and those people on cyberspace, or now we call it YouTube. Got to keep up with the Joneses. It's so great to have you all here. Good Yontif and a Freilichen Chof of. We are all gathered here tonight as we give tribute to the Rebbe's father, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Schneerson. I guess I'm a little nervous. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Schneerson Zatzal on his 78th Yom Hilula. Reb Levik was a Rav of Yekaterinoslav, which is now known as the Dnepropetrovsk. He gave his life, mamish, for the sake of disseminating Torah, and he was letter of the law, never compromising his convictions, never 50-50. It cost him dearly, but he never surrendered, to the point that his opponents eventually became his followers and loyal friends. On Tuesday night, like tonight, Ar Lechof of Harav Levi Yitzchak was laying in bed, and he asked for some water to wash his hands. He said it is time to prepare for the journey to the other side, but his lips were continuously moving. Reb Herschel Rabinowitz bent down and heard. Ladies, listen carefully to these words. V'ikvaisecha lai naida'u. Ay, ikvas Mashiach, ikvas Mashiach. The next day, before Shkia, sunset, his holy neshama returned to its creator, thus Chof of. This is the Rebbe's wish, and it has become our wish. But we're not just wishing. We're not doing that anymore. No, we are doing. We are making the Ikvas Mashiach happen now. I would like to add that the love and the respect that the Rebbe had for his parents is totally indescribable. In Yechidus, when people would come years later and tell the Rebbe about either they fixed a little stone by the cemetery or something they remembered from Reb Leivik, any connections to Reb Leivik, the Rebbe gave him the biggest hakaras hatov, just for doing something nice for his father. And so, by us joining now on Chof Mamish, giving to the Rebbe's father, Reb Levi Yitzchak Schneerson, giving him honor, you can just imagine the joy and the nachas ruach that we get to give to our Rebbe. So Yasher Kayach to all of us. Ladies, just take a minute, close your eyes, and feel the Rebbe's wide smile shining upon us. Feel the hakaras hatov the Rebbe has for us. That's Kedusha. That's holy. So Nashim Sitkanias, Chasidei Chabad, Ashreinu. How lucky we are that when, really we are, that when you give out the brochures, when you give out the neshek, the matzahs, the Chanukah menorahs, the mishloach manos, the good cards, the svarim, the lechayims, the list goes on, just remember, the Rebbe shining smile on you, the Rebbe fort mit eich. A magnificent evening has been planned by Neshei Chabad Mivtzoim. So what are we waiting for? Let's get on with the show. As is befitting, we always commence the evening with the recital of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins Kapitel. Please rise and set your eyes on the screen as we give kavod. And we're going to ask Chana Goldstein and her daughters. Oh, the mother's backing out. It was very sweet. These two girls, this is the last day of their brother's Sheva Brachas. It was in 770 today. And from Simcha to Simcha, they came here tonight because they're giving thanks to the Eivishter and to the Rebbe. So that's why they're here. So Mazel Tov from all of us. Girls, take it away.
Shir Lamalai Sasa Inaya Lahar Man Yava Yazri. Ezri mi Madinaya Sishmaim Va'aretz. Al Yitin Lamai Dargacha Al Yanam Shemracha. Hine Layanam Laishan Shaimer Yisrael. Adene Shmercha, Adene Tzilcha Al Yadi Minecha. Yaima Mashem Ashlaya Keka V'Yareach Balayla. Adene Yishmercha Mikal Ra Yishmer Snavshecha. Adene Yishmer Tischa Uveyacha Meyata Ve'adailam. Shir Amalei David Samachli Ba'imrim Li Beisadei Nelech. I'm Dice Hayu Raglini Basharai Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim Habnu Yarker Shechabrela Yachtav. Shashama Lushratim Shefteya Edasli Yisra Alai Shema Dainai. Kishama Yeshu Kises the Mishpat Kises the Beis David. Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim Mishalu Avayech. Yehi Shalom Bechilech Shava Ba'amar Nasayech. Leman Achai Vereya Dabra Nashalim Bach. Leman Beisadei Nailinu Avakshay Taiblach.
יחי עדינני מורנו ורבינו מלך המשיח האל לבד. יחי עדינני מורנו ורבינו מלך המשיח האל לבד. יחי עדינני מורנו ורבינו מלך המשיח האל לבד.
Thank you. I'd like to now call upon the ever vivacious Sarah Blau, Mrs. Sarah Blau, who will be moderating the Mivtzoim panel for winning personalities. Tivya Jacobson, Henya Lane, Shelly Ataraman, and Nechama Zirkind, entitled Adding Toppings to Your Life. Hear them discuss their missions, because before you know it, correction, before the night is over, it's going to become your missions. Sarah dear, take it away.
I don't know if I could compete with your fun energy.
Bring the walls down, baby.
It was in the year 1935, and it was quite a dangerous time with the KGB breathing down Rabbi Levi Yitzchak's back. And yet he was undeterred and was very involved in helping the Jews, both physically and spiritually. And it was one night, midnight, they get a knock at the door. And Rabbi Levi opens, and there's an elderly woman there shaking, looking all around, and she says to him, Rabbi, my son and daughter need to get married. They need a Jewish rabbi to officiate their wedding, but they have prominent government positions. Nobody could know. I convinced them to have a Jewish wedding. Could you do it like now? And before Rabbi Levi had a chance, could you imagine being asked to just have a wedding in your house? Where they could find the minion from? But of course, Rabbi Levi invited the woman in, and a few minutes later, the chassan and kala came. And remember, it's the middle of the night in Russia. But they somehow managed to collect different chassidim that they knew would be up for it, but they only had a total of 9 people. And a minyan is 10. So how are they going to have this wedding? How are they going to have this chuppah? I mean, they could put the 4 poles, and they could put the piece of material. Where are they getting a 10th person? Listen to what Reb Leivik did. He knew that in his building lived a Jew that worked for the government as head of his housing department, and he knew that this guy's job was to spy on him and report any counter-revolutionary activities to the government. And what does Reb Leivik do? He goes to him 1 o'clock in the morning, by now, all the time that passed, knocks on his door and tells him, shh, can you come be guy number 10 for a minyan to marry off a Jewish couple? And the guy is shocked. He's like, me? I mean, do you know what my job is? My job is to spy on you. My job, are you literally asking me? You know, it's like inviting the IRS in to, see what's going on here. But what do you think happened? This Jew who worked for the government and was supposed to be an informer looked all directions and said, if we do this quietly and quickly, I'm coming. And he came to Reb Leivik's apartment. They didn't even use candles so nobody should find out. And they quietly did a chuppah. Why am I sharing this story with you? Because the last person that you would expect to do a chuppah is a government informant. And yet, that's the powerful message that we take from Reb Leivik. The panel that we're about to do about Mivtzoim, sometimes these women will go over to the least likely person, and they are not scared, and they are not shy, and they will give them that challah, or that neshek, or that mezuzah. And you could literally turn around. You can literally turn around another person by not being afraid of their external looks, going straight to their neshama and say, listen here, there's a Jewish chuppah that has to happen. I know you could do it. There's a candle that needs to be lit. I know you can do it. And that's what we're here tonight, to learn from these women and how they do Mivtzoim, and to realize that Mivtzoim is not something that is external to us. Like if I see a Dan's Deal free ticket to Israel, I mean, it bursts out of me. I share it to all 10,000 of my WhatsApp groups. No one has to tell me to. When our Yiddishkeit is so real, we're so gushing with it, it's not like I have to force myself to go on Mivtzoim. It's like, I have something amazing I want you to know about. This is the best thing that could happen to you. So let's dive right into our questions. I know that we already introduced their names. I want to just say 1 or 2 lines about each one of our esteemed panelists. Shelly, I feel like I know her for years, but I literally just met her a few months ago because she helped me launch the Tanya book, Close to You. And she's really involved in the Chabad Learning Foundation. She's very involved in educating children, and her whole life basically is Mivtzoim. So we're going to hear about that from her. Mrs. Lane is, Baruch Hashem, a proud mother of 8 children that are on shlichus, basically living lives of Mivtzoim. She speaks, she's a college teacher, very inspiring, and entertaining too. So we look forward to hearing from you. Mrs. Jacobson, I have her saved on my phone as Bubby Jacobson, because when you taught me, we called you Bubby Jacobson. We loved you, and we love you as well tonight. And we all know the beautiful family and children and all the chassidus that came from your children, from yourself. And when I asked for her bio, she said, say whatever you want, humble. But we know how articulate and how effective Mrs. Jacobson is. And Mrs. Nechama Zirkind, who also said, a bio, I'm just a regular person, but she is extremely dedicated to her Mivtzoim, has a lot to share with us. And without further ado, question number 1. Why, on Chof of, the night of Reb Leivik's yahrzeit, why are we having a panel about Mivtzoim? Like, why is Mivtzoim so central, so important to our Avaidas Chassidim, and why is it such a priority? And we're gonna time the answers. This is like a crossfire. We wanna hear from you in 2.5 minutes or less. Mrs. Jacobson seems like she wants to start, so go for it. I think use the mic, please.
I think we may have a little bit of misconception.
Closer.
When we say Mivtzoim, it just sounds like to the mouth? Okay. When we say Mivtzoim, it just means you have to go out there in the street and stand on a corner and ask, are you Jewish? So Mivtzoim are an opportunity to bring Geula consciousness to everybody. And now when I say everybody, the Rebbe, of course, in the last years, told us even Goyim have to be brought in, because Geula means that the whole world knows that there's only one. We're all one, and we're all one with Hashem. So Mivtzoim are really opportunities wherever you are. You don't have to go to a corner or to a store. I will describe a little bit later in my next question what opportunities means. But the whole idea, what the Rebbe wants from us, is to light up people. The Baal Shem Tov said something beautiful. When you see the moon, a sliver of the moon, where do you think the sun is? Is it on the side where the moon is shining, or is it on the dark side of the moon? Many people say, of course it's on the dark side of the moon. Then it's not the sun. Because any time the sun comes close to anybody, they light up. So when you see the sliver of the moon, it means the sun is on the side of the moon. And how do you know you are a sun? Is when you meet somebody and you light them up. Then you know that you're a son, a chassid of the Rebbe, who is taking the mission to light up the world from one end to the other and have the revelation of the Geula takef umiyad mamish with the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, finally revealing the Geula and taking us to the Geula Hamitis Vashlema.
Amen. Perfect. Okay, Mrs. Lane.
So first of all, I'm so excited to see you all. I don't want to get up because I know you're all watching behind me this beautiful film. So Mivtzoim. First of all, Devorim hayotzi min halev, nichnasim el halev. So when you go out and you meet it with all your heart and soul, it's going to touch somebody, somewhere, sometime. Mivtzoim strengthens our belief in Hashem. Watching the enthusiasm and the excitement of some of the people we touch gives us energy and a feeling of accomplishments. Mivtzoim was started by the Rebbe, who would mentioned the 10 Mivtzoim almost at every single Farbrengen. The Rebbe actually said that in order to keep doing mitzvahs with excitement, he mentions one at a time. Because when you hear something new, all of a sudden it becomes refreshing and exciting, even though we have 630 mitzvahs. But every time it comes with a new one, it brings enthusiasm to the mitzvah. So I want to just share something. My husband traveled a lot, and at the airport, he was standing, and somebody kept looking at him all the time. So, being the kind man that he is, he whisked out a little card, and on the back it's the Tfilas HaDerech, and the front is a picture of the Rebbe. And he gave it to this gentleman, and he said to him, you're Jewish, right? He said, yes, I just love looking at you. He's a handsome guy, you know, with his black beard, even with his white beard. Anyway, and my husband said to him, whenever you travel, say the prayer in the back and keep looking at this holy rabbi. Anyway, fast forward, 17 years later, we traveled to Panama to see our son for whatever occasion it was. And my husband always has his little cards. I'm taking it out later to show you. He has his little cards with him. And whenever he sees anybody, he gives it to them. And he gives this to this gentleman. Again, he sees a guy with a beard. But still he says, you know, you travel. This is a picture of the Rebbe. It's got the Shir Hamal, the Tfilas HaDerech in the back. And the bottom is my address. Hint, hint. If you're in New York, hint, hint. So the man looks at this. He goes, one moment. Puts his hand in his pocket, whisks out a card. He says, do you see this? I got this 17 years ago from Rabbi David Lane. He says, well, do you want a new one? He says, no, this is the reason I'm from today. I kept looking at this picture of the Rebbe. Wow. So, Mivtzoim, okay.
Amazing.
To be continued.
Shelly.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here tonight. So I basically want to add to Sarah's story. So when we do Mivtzoim, we ignite a soul, and we open up something in their Jewish neshama. And that really is the point of Mivtzoim. When you go on Mivtzoim, you don't know who you're going to affect, how you're going to do it. Sometimes it's very scary to approach people. But once you do it, and even if the reaction is not so amazing at the beginning, you don't know what you touched, that once they go home, it might change their life forever. So I want to share a story from the Rebbe. Professor Eckstein, in 1954, went to the Rebbe for Yechidus, and he spoke to him about, he was a young man at that time, and he was part of a group in Mexico that were teaching young boys, and he told them, Rebbe, I don't understand. We put so much effort into educating these people, and we are spending so much of our time, and after a year, they leave us, and they don't just leave us, they go and marry non-Jewish girls, and I don't understand, why are we putting all this effort? And the Rebbe told him, imagine one Shabbos afternoon, you're lecturing to your group of boys, and all of a sudden, a young man comes and sits down. He's not so interested, but he sits, and he listens to you say, we are the children of Avraham, and we are connected to Hashem, and this is something inside our souls. And he doesn't find interest, and he leaves. A few years later, he graduates from college, and he decides to marry a young woman, and she is not Jewish. Her parents want the marriage to happen in the church, and he doesn't care. He said, okay. They're driving to the church. They're coming out of the car. He sees the cross, and all of a sudden, in his head, he hears the voice. He doesn't know where he heard it. You are the son of Avraham. You are a Jewish man. You have a soul with you. And all of a sudden, he's like, I can't do this. And he runs away. And he goes and finds his roots. The Rebbe said, Azorim bedim'a berina yekatzeru. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we know for sure that the effort that we make when we go out and try to ignite a Jewish soul will definitely have a return. And it's really yagata umatzata. There's no other way. And this is the way to bring Geula. This is the way to bring Mashiach. This is a way to build Beit HaMikdash. And on Yud Chet, the Hayom Yom said that we must use every ounce of effort to help another Yid. So that's why we do Mivtzoim.
Amazing. Nechama.
Thank you. Okay. So the Rebbe taught us about Mivtzoim when we go on Mivtzoim, we become a shliach of the Rebbe. And we hear these beautiful success stories, people going on Mivtzoim, and it's very obvious. It's not the little person who's going on Mivtzoim, it's the Rebbe's koyach that's going through him, because he is the Rebbe's shliach. Mivtzoim is a connection. It's the connection between the three links, which can never be disconnected: the Jewish people, the Torah, and Hashem. And when we go on Mivtzoim, in a beautiful way, we connect all of these three links. Well, it's connected already, but we make it stronger. We're connecting the past and the present and the future. We're connecting the past generations and our history together with what we have now and our potential, going into the future, into the times of Mashiach. And when we connect with one person, it's a Pintele Yid connecting to the Pintele Yid, connecting to the Eibishter, connecting to the Torah. Even if nothing happens after that moment of connection, we have no way to measure how valuable that one moment of connection is. To me, I have a personal connection with Mivtzoim, which is stronger than it has been, that we are taking with us generations who were on this earth and are now in the world to come. It's not only the past generations. For me, it's also two of my children who come with us when we do Mivtzoim. And as we're doing this, coming closer to Mashiach, and in that time, we'll all be together with all of our loved ones.
Amen. We know and we read about the sacrifice and the Mesiras Nefesh that Reb Leivik and Rebbe Tzimchana had to teach Yiddishkeit and the exile that they went through. In the 1990s, a government official admitted that Reb Leivik was mistakenly arrested. I read a whole article by Rabbi Margolin on Chabad.org. It was fascinating. I never knew that they admitted that it was trumped up charges, and they even didn't want to take the blame. It was like the previous KGB. When I read it, I was like, really? Wow, like the KGB, the scariest government, ends up acknowledging the truth. And this is the similar theme that we're saying, is that the truth will prevail. We're trying to get the whole world to recognize that Hashem is one, that Torah is one. Emes is Emes, and the truth will prevail. I do want to give a little shout out to my mother, Mrs. Kravitsky, who arranged this whole panel and asked me to interview, and is very involved with Mivtzoim and using all her talents of singing and playing and going to nursing homes, and definitely an inspiration for what Mivtzoim is. But the question really is, we all have a million things on our plate, Baruch Hashem, busy families, Kanai Nahara, working, simchas, things to attend to. And what if you're hearing about this concept called Mivtzoim, you want to share the 10 Mivtzoim, or you want to share Chassidus and Torah with other people, but you don't have time to formally sketch in 5 hours, go to a nursing home. How do you add Mivtzoim to an already overpacked and busy life? Let's hear. Yep, Mrs. Jacobson.
Okay. As I mentioned before, it's opportunity. We make our own opportunities. So I'll give you one example. It was Erev Yom Kippur. My whole family went to shul. I'm about to light the candles. I'm standing outside on my stoop, saying goodbye to everybody, and I notice a policewoman passing by. I'm around the corner of the police station, and I could see from a mile away, not anymore, this was a little while ago, was a Jewish name. So I ran down the steps, and I asked her, it's Erev Yom Kippur. We're lighting candles now. Would you like to come in and light candles? So she said, no, I'm on a post. I'm not supposed to leave my post. I said, yeah, but what do you have? Some needs? What would you do? So she said, okay, I'll come in. I said, just going to take a few minutes. She came into my house, and you understand, she's standing there. I gave her a tichel to cover her hair. She's standing in policeman's uniform. In the back pocket is bulging a gun on one side and a book of tickets on the other side. And I put 2 candles for her, and I had time to really help her bench, so I don't have to, I would do it myself, because me, it takes 20 minutes to name every single person that I have to daven for. So we made a bracha, and Shehecheyanu, and the 2 of us just burst out hugging and crying. Now, I didn't go anywhere. It was Erev Yom Kippur. Somebody said, you're doing Mivtzoim Erev Yom Kippur? Wow. That's what, so what I'm saying is opportunity. Now, I did for many years, but I had time. I used to do it on Sundays because I didn't work on Sundays. So I would go to the hospital, mostly Maimonides, because I knew the place inside out. I knew exactly where to go. Nobody could stop me because I looked like I belonged. I looked like I knew where I was going. I was dressed in white, as you can see. So they didn't first I went to the maternity ward. So I went into every single room. I looked at the names, if it was Jewish. So I would right away, one pocket was little Shiram Allison. The other pocket was change. And then I had this little pushka, because I don't want anyone to think I'm collecting money. So I would whip out the pushka as I'm giving the nickel. So I put the Shiram Allison, like 1, 2, 3, Shiram Allison. This is for the baby. He's going to watch the baby. It's from the Tehillim, from King David Tehillim. Depends who I was giving it to. If it was religious somebody, they knew what it was. If it was somebody who didn't know anything, so I would explain what it is. And here's a nickel for tzedakah. And if any guests or anybody, everybody got a nickel. Everybody gave tzedakah for the baby. And Mashiach will come. You'll have no labor pains. So I threw in Mashiach. And then, of course, when you finish having the baby and you want to have you're going to, after a few weeks, you'll be able to go to the mikveh, And if you don't know what a mikveh, okay. So you have a little brochure, here's a little mikveh. And if you see it wasn't religious, I gave them candles, I gave them a brochure, everything. And then now I did it so quickly. I once took a lady with me. She didn't know how to do this, like in just a few minutes. Wow. Then I would go to regular patients. And when I talk about lighting up people, here are people hooked up from nose to toes. And I walk over and I say, hi, I'm Mr. Jacobson, I'm a volunteer. I know why you're here. The food is so good here. What do you think happened? They smile. With all those things hooked up, they smile. And then I give them a look for tzedakah, and then I give the person who's sitting with them tzedakah. They never heard such a thing. Somebody give you money to put tzedakah. But very often people would give their own money. And it was just beautiful. But I didn't care. The Rebbe, what did the Rebbe do? Give money. So I said, if the Rebbe could give dollars, I could at least give nickels. So that's what I did.
Wow. Thank you, Mrs. Jacobson.
Well, I have a few more. Is my time up?
For this question, we'll bring with you plenty more.
A few more minutes, because I really want to give different kinds of examples how to make opportunities. My husband was in the hospital. What do you do? I was sitting with him. And I wrote to the Rebbe that, he's in the hospital, he was in the hospital. And the Rebbe wrote an answer to us. My son wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe wrote, as soon as he finishes shlichus, he'll be able to go home. Wow. So here I'm in the hospital. They say, where are you going, Mivtzoim? So I said, oh, wow. Nickels, pushkas. And then I called up Rabbi Groner, and I said, the Methodist at that time was so Christian, because they had in the room, they had, things that we wouldn't want to have them. And I said, mostly goyim. He said, the Rebbe said even goyim have to give tzedakah. So here was my mission. I'm running from bed to bed, There was one lady who said, I'm Jewish, but I became kosher through the other Jew. So I took her name, and I gave it to Rabbi Hecht because people told me. I know I was told that when somebody does that, you can't just talk to him. You need to give it to somebody who knows how to talk to somebody like that. So what I'm saying is this. I was in Boston in the hospital, same story. I ran around from room to room, give everybody tzedakah. But I was there I slept in the hospital. I was there day and night. I couldn't go out on Mivtzoim, but in the hospital itself. And then what I did, one more thing, and then I'm done because I have plenty more, but, my husband had real serious surgery, and it was Shavuos. And I arranged that should be a Sefer Torah and a minyan to come upstairs. And where are you going to do it? So there were solariums on every single floor. It's a room that's with all windows, and the patients, they take them out there. So it says on his floor, it was on the 7th floor, doctors and nurses meeting at 10 o'clock. Okay, so I went downstairs on the same floor. There's another solarium. Okay, perfect, empty, no problem. Now the minyan is coming with the Sefer Torah. My husband was wheeled with a wheelchair into the room, into the solarium, and I'm standing near the door. Every time a doctor or nurse comes, the meeting was moved to the 6th floor. They don't even ask anything. They all moved to the 6th floor. And then what I did, I went to the 6th floor, and I told a few doctors, in a few minutes, come upstairs, we're going to be reading the Torah. Anyway.
Wow,
So,
thank you.
opportunities.
Yes, Mrs. Lane, let's hear about your opportunities and how you fit it in.
So that's an excellent question. We all grapple with this question. How are you able to take care of all your responsibilities and also do Mivtzoim? How can you juggle everything, the home as well as doing the Rebbe's work, which is Mivtzoim? First of all, I want to tell all you lovely young ladies, mothers of little children, primary importance is for us to raise good, ehrliche, Hasidische children. Now, I feel that in order to accomplish this, we should include our children and our families in our Mivtzoim. As I was watching the video, one of the mothers had all her children working on Mivtzoim. When it is possible, set aside a special time, like say every Wednesday, I'm going to go out for an hour, or once in every 2 weeks. It's wise to carry all sorts of Mivtzoim in our pocketbook. I put them all out here on the table. I got it from there, because everybody can carry very simple things that don't weigh too much, like Shir Hamalas. Well, actually, I like to carry these ones. And here are Sefer Torah forms. Here are Shabbos candles. The best of all that I like are these very, very light ones, the 7 Noah laws, and of course, this one's called the surf card, I have used the surf card at all times. That's what you get. I love it. I just wanted to tell you that when my husband was in the hospital and he had a little surgery, I found out one of the gentlemen was Jewish, knew nothing about being Jewish. I said, here's the surf guide. I said, I have 1 second to talk to you. I said, good, I have 1 second to give it to you. Here's the surf guide. Look in the back. Chabad.org, da-da-da-da-da. Just do this. He couldn't even give me his number, but that's so busy. When I go on the airplane, I always have the good cards with me, the 7 Noah laws. I give it to all the stewardesses. I even give it, at the end when you walk down, the pilot stands there. I even give it to them, and they're so excited. I tell them this is for all the good people in the world, all 8 million of us, all of us together. And I said, if we keep all these laws, it will be such a beautiful world. The Messiah will show up. Another thing is, you can carry everything I told you either in your pocketbook or have a little small Mivtzoim bag with you, always ready to take it along. I told you about the Neshek brochures, the tea lights, the good cards, the 7 Noah laws, the Ohel cards. I always take along an Ohel card with a picture of the Rebbe. I always take that along with me, tell people to look at it and to go to the Ohel. I actually walked into a Frum store to buy my husband a hat before they had the hat store in Crown Heights, and I saw a father with Chassan, and I said to him, oh, when is your son getting married? So he tells me, I said, you should go get a bracha from a very big tzaddik. He said, I really wanted to, but I don't know how to get there. There I had my card. Go to the oil. They were so excited. It's possible to do Mivtzoim even when you go on outings. When we go to the park, you strike up a conversation with anybody. When I go to my children, oh boy, do I give them work. I get everybody's name in the park, and they live in nice Jewish neighborhoods. And they have a job when they, babies or not, they have jobs. On the plane, I told you, when you stand in line in the supermarket, I have a daughter who's always finding mitzvahs in the supermarkets. Ladies, and if you don't have time to go out of the house, JNet. Get on JNet. Get yourself somebody and then just learn with them. It's so beautiful. You get to learn at your time and your place. Okay, Mr. Duke started. I'm just going to do this quickly. When you want something done, always ask a busy person. So there you are.
Okay, I don't think I can top these amazing stories, but I will try. So basically, as I was working as a preschool director, I realized that I come across a lot of people, mothers, children, and I realized that I always have to have something handy. So my car started to become my Mivtzoim car, and I started to have a box for everything. So I have a box for children's books, I have a box for Shabbos candles, I have a box for women's stories and women's books, and I have a box for tzedakah boxes and tzitzis and mezuzahs, and that's how my car became a vehicle for Mivtzoim. So I don't even have to, wherever I go, I don't have to go back and get something. Somebody doesn't have a mezuzah, I say, you know what, I have a mezuzah. If you want to put it, let's put it right now. And this way, I realized that momentum is very important. So if you have it handy, you'll be able to use it. Now, if you don't have a car, you could, put something in your bag. But the point is to have the mindset of doing Mivtzoim, that it's a part of us. I used to hear the word Mivtzoim, and I used to think I need a table, a sign. You don't. You are the Mivtzoim. You are the vehicle. You get out of the house in the morning, you say, Hashem, I want to help one of your children. I want to help two of your children. I'm taking these things in my bag. Please help me that I be merited to meet someone that needs it. If you're traveling somewhere, I always take a children's book with me. I take in the Chabad newsletter, I read it, then I leave it somewhere. Maybe someone will see it, they'll see a picture, it'll change their life. You never know. You have to try. If you try, you will surely succeed.
Wow, I love the idea of leaving things places, like you leave traces. Like if you're not the type who wants to talk to people, just go to like that doctor's office where there's anyway a million things to read and just like drop the Chabad newsletter. Okay, let's hear from Nechama, from Mrs. Zirkin.
The narrator tells me to stop.
Okay, so Mivtzoim is a way of life. Our mission on this world is to make a dira b'tachteinim, to bring Mashiach. Every pa'ula, every person touched, every mitzvah is preparing ourselves, it's preparing our fellow Yid, it's preparing the non-Jews, it's preparing the entire world for Mashiach. We don't have to squeeze in Mivtzoim into a busy day because we can make it be part of our busy day. This is the purpose of our busy day. For example, with kids are enthusiastic, they're pure, they're real, and they can help us with everything. They can help pack, they can help go on Mivtzoim. Even when we go a place, when we go out with them, give each kid something in their hand, a neshek, a pamphlet, a card, and they'll give it out. And they have an energy, and kids are like magnets. So when they come and they take part of the Mivtzoim, it elevates the experience for everyone. When we're busy, we need to take care of ourselves also. Nowadays, there's a whole self-care. So it's something that I like to do. It's relaxing, artistic, creative. I have a program, it's called Canva, and I design cards and flyers and posters. And so I can relax and get my creative side working, and at the end of it, I have something tangible to show for it. So I have all these cards. I do it the Ilui Nishmas for my children, for my mother. And at the end of the whole thing, we have something to give to someone. If anyone is interested in these cards, you can contact me or contact the Mivtzoim committee.
Beautiful. They look absolutely gorgeous.
Miss-
And
I want to just say something. It's important. What I have done also when I go to the hospital is if somebody's expecting a baby, I give them a Shir HaMalach. The Rebbe said that every person, so anybody here, even some of the Lubavitcher, I gave Lubavitcher people, and they didn't know that when they're expecting, they should have a Shir HaMalach on them at all times. If there's an Erev, even Shabbos. If there's no Erev, the whole.
you can hold on to the mic for another second. You're lucky enough because on your way out of here, you are going to get a really classy, practical, and cute souvenir. It is a card holder. On your way out, you can keep a good card in here. All the different things that Mrs. Lane was whipping out of her card. Beautiful things, design, the Shabbos candles, a picture of the Rebbe. And this way, you can have it in your purse, literally, like a wallet, whip it out on the airplane, by an appointment, on public transportation. You'll be able to share it. And Sheikh Chabad and the Mivtzoim committee also prepared a table of Mivtzoim to go. So all the different props that they were showing you are not just props, they're real. Take it, put it in your purse, stick it, in one of each of your purses if you have one for every season, and you'll really have what to share. Now we're on our final question, and I think we started touching upon this, and the question is like this. There are all different types of Mivtzoim. Some people leave traces, some people do challah bake, some people are going and making programs. What is your favorite Mivtzoim? For me personally, I love writing, so I'll write articles for Chabad.org, and I love painting, so I'll make these painting art and learns where I could share Mivtzoim, go to Chabad houses and do that program. And what's so fascinating is that within everything that the Rebbe encouraged us to do, you could find something. You could find something that suits your personality, wherever, however, whenever you go, that you could be bubbling over and sharing the light and spreading the Geula message. So we'd love to hear from you, your favorite form of Mivtzoim, and the story that came along with it. And this is the final question, unless that's probably the final question, right? Okay, final question. Let's hear.
A little lower? Oh, I'm too loud? Sorry. I wanted them to
Okay.
pay attention. Okay. Great question. What's my favorite part of Mivtzoim? Although I do all kinds of Mivtzoim, as you've heard before, my preference really is to speak to a group like you. Or my Shabbos shir every Shabbos, 5:30 to 7, 770 Montgomery Street, my Pirkei Avos shir. So I enjoy that the most because I feel that when you speak to them, you kind of have everybody's attention because they came to hear you. And you come to listen and to learn. I also, when I speak to a not-from crowd, I get a kick out of the time when they say, well, if you are religious, why don't you cover your hair? Well, I do have to tell you that Genya Leah Shalom passed away, and so I have a problem. She made me always look so magnificent and elegant and gorgeous, and so I have to do my own sheitel. So till I find somebody, we're stuck. Anyway, so I say to them, look, this is a sheitel, and God loves Jewish women. I don't know if I say always Jewish. If it's Jewish crowd, I say. Because he wants us to look elegant and beautiful, and tradition is to cover our hair, and then I go into it. So it really depends who I talk to. If I speak to a group of women, I'll mention Taras Mishpach. If I speak to a group of children, I'll talk about, I wrote it all down so I should remember, pushkas, Sefer Torah forms, kosher animals in the house. If I speak to a group of frum women, I like to say a lot of words teachings of Hasidus, and I kind of smell them, you know? If I use the word Rebbe and I see their facial features, then I'll say Chazal, Chachamim say. But the Rebbe always said, you don't have to say it in my name as long as you spread Hasidus. So I just want to share with you how every moment is important in Mivtzoim. Doesn't matter. If you cannot say, are you Jewish? You know what? I cannot say, are you Jewish? So I'll say a Jewish word like, oh, it's the holiday of Pesach soon, or Shabbos is coming. And when I see them perk up their eyes, I know, oh, they're Jewish. Once I asked somebody, are you Jewish? Of course. And she said, no, I'm Italian. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm Italian. I said, don't be sorry, I have something for you. Sheva Mrs. Noach. Anyway, so I'm just going to share this with you. I'm in Paris. My daughter had a baby. We had to go somewhere. And nobody wears skirts in Paris except the Fruma Yidden. So I see this lady wearing a skirt. She comes over and she says to me, can I help you down with a stroller? In English. She's wearing a skirt. I said, Sarah, and my daughter Sarah is like, she Baruch Hashem has a few children, so she's there with the other stroller. I said, Sarah, she's wearing a skirt. She's Jewish. She says, Ma, should I drop the baby? Anyway, so we get into the subway, and she says, Ma, if we make the train with all our kids, Kanai Nohara, I will go over and talk to her. Anyway, we made the train. Baruch Hashem, the train was 2 minutes late, just in time for us to get in. So I'm busy with the babies. She's talking to this young lady, gets her name and number. She comes over, and the lady gets off the next station. She says, Ma, you won't believe this. This girl lives in our neighborhood for 8 months. She doesn't have one friend. She is so lonely. Thank you. I told her that she should come to the class. Whenever I come, I speak for them. I speak English. My daughter translates into French. I said, did you take her name and number? We had no time. She got off the next train, but I told her where the class would be. What do you think, ladies? I go to speak. This girl walks in. And at the end of the class, we asked everybody to say something. And she said, I am very, very lonely. I don't know anybody here. In no time, 15 people invited her for Shabbos. Today, she lives in Eretz Yisrael with her husband and 2 children. Why? Because she wore a skirt. And I have a great daughter.
Wow, these are amazing stories. I feel very, very connected to Shabbos candles. I think it's a very universal thing. The Shabbos candles, they light up and you look at them and you can't resist it. Most women, when you offer them Shabbos candles, they usually take it. I sometimes go to a senior center and I do Kabbalat Shabbat for them. And just recently I was there and a new couple came and they were looking into living there in the senior center. It's like also a living arrangement that you can just pay for it and you can live there even if you're independent. And I was lighting Shabbos candles and they were sitting next to me. And the wife was looking at the candles and she said, wow, this really, really touched my heart. And I said, do you ever light Shabbos candles? And she said, no, I lit Shabbos candles in camp many, many, many years ago. She said, it's so simple. It took you a second to light it. So I said, would you like some Shabbos candles for next week? And she took them. And you see it all the time. It's just so special. Even with children, when you show them the Shabbos candles, there was a very beautiful story about a young girl that heard from her friend. They were in preschool, and the friend was in a Chabad preschool, and the other little girl was not, and she told her that little girls light Shabbos candles. And she came home and she told her mommy, I would like to light Shabbos candles. I want to light Shabbos candles. And the mom said no, and the girl said yes, and she started giving a tantrum, and the mom let her light Shabbos candles. And after a few weeks, the mom started lighting with her. So the Shabbos candles just light up the neshama of every Jewish person. I'm also very, very connected to challah. I feel like it's also everyone knows what challah is. It's yummy. You can reach it through the children, send it home, and then the parents start buying challah. They want challah too. You have challah dough. Okay, we'll bake it. And they start baking it. It's like, oh, do you have more challah dough? So it reaches, the heart in a very soft way, in a very gentle way, and it brings Shabbos to people's homes. And it starts with the Shabbos candles, and it starts with the challah, and it ends up to be so much more. So challah and candles.
Okay, so when you ask me this question, I feel a little bit like you're asking me, what's your favorite kitchen utensil? it depends what I'm doing. It depends what's happening that day. If I'm going somewhere, so I'll take materials and give it out. Maybe I'll be packing. Maybe I'll be writing. I write poems and articles and information for these little cards that I put out. I design the cards. It depends what I'm doing. But every once a week, I go to an old age home, and we do a program there. Speak a little bit about some Jewish important subject which is relevant to the time. And we make brachas, say a bit of tefillas, and we connect with them. It's really hard. This is a connection with the soul, with the neshama. You see these people, they come alive. They don't have very many people coming to visit them. They're all alone. They don't have too much to look forward to. So you come there, you tell them, Mashiach is coming. Oh, I have something to look forward to. And they have something to look forward to. Every week you're going to come, you're going to speak to them, you're going to connect with them. And it's a taste of home. They remember their mother lighting candles. They remember their father making kiddush. And there was one lady, it took her a long time to get the words out, but she said to me, sometimes I'm confused. I don't know where I am. I don't know what day it is. But one thing I always remember, I'm Jewish. This is the Pintel Yid. And I believe that when we are going there, especially to these elderly people, we're giving them not only spiritual life, but physical life as well.
By the way, you can also go to Top Fashion, and they have certain Mivtzoim materials that if you need. And you can go to Tzach. There is Mivtzoim Depot. Neshei Chabad, you could always reach out to Mrs. Marazev, Mrs. Chana Marazev, Mrs. Miri Marazev. And we're really here to support you and encourage you to spread the Rebbe's message. They really wanted us to wrap up the panel because we are ready for the next part of the program.
Ms. Lau, it's my chance, my turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Mrs. Jacobson will be the wrap-up with the bow. You start, you end us off.
So thank you. First of all, Henya mentioned JNet. I have been teaching a woman for about 7 years, every single Tuesday. We learn Tanya, we learn the Parsha, and it's just wonderful. What I want to say is this. I had a wonderful experience on Shavuos. I went to Monsey, where my son and my daughter-in-law with the Kinderlach live. And as I walked into the shul, a woman comes out screaming, Mr. Jacobson, you know. I hadn't seen this woman for 30 years. And where did she come from? She rented a house near the shul where my son teaches. And she said, on Shavuos, I wanted to be immersed in Torah learning. So that's why I rented a house next to the shul. Where does she come from, this young lady? 30 years ago, she had just recently gotten married, and they decided they're traditional, but they wanted to become frum. Traditional means, you know, certain things that they do. So I had a class every single week, 2 classes, one in Manhattan and one in Brooklyn. And I would teach women who knew nothing about Yiddishkeit. She was the one that knew it a little more. And every one of them became frum. So I had the other class, so this woman started to remind me all the things, how she went from step to step. Then there's another woman there. Again, I had this jackpot on Shavuos, because the woman has been living in Monsey for a few years already. Where does she come from? I had a class in Manhattan. She lived in the Village. She came to my class. There were about 20 women, and she said, I told you that it was interesting, but I'm really not interested to become religious. I said, it's okay, just come. She said, then when I started to speak about kashrus and lighting candles, what I did in my classes, I love to teach women. I love teaching women. I never told them what to do. I just told them what the Torah tells us, what a Jewish woman is. I made them excited about being the foundation of the Jewish home. So every time we had a class, one of them would say, okay, so how do I start being kosher? How do I start actually observing Shabbos? This particular woman was so secular. She knew absolutely zero. She told me, I cannot become kosher because my husband loves butter on his chicken. I said, if you're a good cook, I'm sure you can make the chicken so he's going to love it. And then also, we only use organic chickens. I said, no problem. I'll give you a number for organic chickens. P.S. She's wearing a sheitel. First of all, she moved from the village to the west side, and she said, no, I can't be in the west side. The women are wearing pants, and they don't cover their hair. The next thing I know, she's living a few miles away from my son in Muncie. She's wearing a sheitel. Her husband has a beard, and he became a macher in Muncie. And her children, one of her daughters just married a yeshiva bacharel. So this is what I love to do. Wake up the women to their Yiddishkeit, to know who they are, what is the foundation.
Just want to say the power of the Rebbe. You think it's us?
Hello? No. Thank you. You were fantastic, you girls. What toppings? Bananas, chocolate syrup, whipped cream, and the cherries on top. Which toppings did you pick this evening? Which mitzvah resonated with all of you? Sarah and Blau and panelists, you were divinely delicious. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Blondes, we stick together. Okay, not yet. It all starts with a cream cheese regala. About 10 years ago, Chana Morozow, the head of the Mivtzoim, approached me and said, Miriam, could you give out cream cheese regalach for Shavuos? So I said, sure. Sure, what's the big deal? So I went, and I saw that there was no one visiting the people. It was in a JASA center. So I went the following week, and still nobody. No children, no family members. So I said to myself, Miriam, you can't leave them high and dry. Nothing doing. And since then, it's been minhag. Camera? Please focus on the screen and watch what happens.
I have the privilege to making a Shabbos party every week with 58 bubbies and zadies, Russians and Americans in a senior center that became my fountain of youth. I go to their birthday parties, unfortunately their passings. We became like a family. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's my custom that we go every week. On a Friday, come rain or hail or sunshine, we are there celebrating together. Well, usually in life, we do Mivtzoim, we don't really see the fruits of our labor. About 3-4 weeks ago, the director from the Russian department tells me, Miriam, she goes, I've been studying Hebrew.
My name is Irina. I'm social worker in the program of senior people, and I'm working with them around 10 years already. And last year, when it's pandemic start, I just start learn Torah, Hitas, Hebrew.
I said, really? And she reads to me the bracha on Hamotzi and the challahs that we give out.
Hamotzi, lehem, min, haaretz.
And then she tells me how she put up a mezuzah when times weren't doing too well.
3 years ago, when I had troubled time in my life, and I talked with Miriam. I don't know what happened with me. I have this situation, and she recommended me put mezuzah. 3 years ago, I put mezuzah, and I'm so happy I put it. And every day now, when I start reading Hebrew, now I know what is the mezuzah writing. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And every morning, every evening, I'm kissing my mezuzah and I'm talking about it.
And her mezuzah is up there and she just feels so comforted and so taken care of. All this is beautiful, but now she tells me, Miriam, did you ever hear of chitas? I said, what? I was floored. Chitas? I said, why, of course. She goes, well, I'm studying Tanya. I said, you're what?
I'm starting, I'm learning, and I'm enjoying.
I said, ladies, this is the cherry on top. We don't see what little seeds we plant and what can become of it. I mean, Rebbe, look what you started. The Russian director of an old age home, of a senior center of JASA, is studying chitas, Tanya.
It's Mashiach Zeit. We have the privilege tonight to bring to you the director of the Russian division of JASA at the HES, the Hebrew Educational Society, Mrs. Irina Safanova. Irina, come on up as we give you a standing ovation for not your baby steps, your leaps. Wait, what's that?
I don't know what they
never mind. Wait, just 1 second. The Rebbe said in a Sikha, it's time to make leaps. And you're doing it, Irina La. Kanain her poo, poo, poo. So give a few words, and then Mindy, do your thing. Just talk to the audience.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. And I'm so excited. I'm not preparing for this event because it's so, surprising for me. I know Miriam 10 years already, almost 10 years, and she's coming to us, to our HES, Hebrew Educational Society, and I'm running program for senior citizen people. And now I'm working 10 years, and she came to us. My Russian people, honestly, we are from Soviet Union. We are atheistic people. We came here, atheistic. But in my family, my grandmother, my grandfather, my mother, they tried to celebrate Passover, Rosh Hashanah. They celebrated. But do you know what? When they put candle, they close curtains. They closed. Nobody has to see. Irina, I was small little girl. Irina, don't say anybody what are we doing at home. And they remember. And life is different, and so hard. And anyway, I came. Now I'm coming to this way, which my grandmother taught me, which my grandfather taught me, and my mother. I think it should be like this. And I'm so happy, right? It's pandemic time. I start teach Hebrew, and now I'm writing Hebrew. I can write, but a lot of people I don't understand. But I'm trying the best. What can I do? I'm trying. But thank you for her. She's my my teacher. 10 years. But she was so surprised when I start reading. It was maybe surprise to me too, but I always wanted to learn this language. I don't know, because maybe it's in my soul, And
okay, we want to offer Irina.
Oh my God!
Flowers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're
so
inspiring.
So glad to see you, everyone, and I'm so happy and enjoying, this day today. Thank you, Miriam.
Irina, you rock, baby. You're turning over stones. You're bringing Mashiach. Love you.
Thank you.
Irina does not live in Crown Heights. She came all the way from Kings Plaza area to be here tonight. Like I always tell the people there, I say, Irina, if we're so proud of you, can you just imagine the Eibishter, the angels in heaven are dancing over this. So, beautiful. More than the person gives, the person receives. So all of you here, please partner with us. Be that foot soldier, be that tankist, be the illuminator, and illuminate the lives of others, which will illuminate your own and your families. Join us. It's the best investment you can make. It puts smiles on all. It puts smiles on all. As the Rebbe said, we've polished the buttons now. We've done it already. All we need to do is greet Mashiach with simcha. Once again, eyes on the screen as we present to you a short clip about Reb Levi Yitzchak Schneerson Zatzal. I guess it's Hasidic movie night. What can I tell you? This is all free, and we're throwing in everything, and that's what you get when you do Mivtzoim. You get everything.
The 20th of Av marks the passing of the Rebbe's father, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Schneerson. He died while serving his sentence in Kazakhstan, where he was exiled for his stance against the Soviet efforts to eradicate Jewish learning and practice.
Was Kolben heute mit der Gewinn, als von Pi, was gewinn bei Esrim Biyov, noch der Ruf, was Chamish Osser Biyov hat nur gehört, schneiden Neisi. Wenn wir hatten gewusst, bis Sommer über ein Jahr, wird man nicht können haben, keine Eizi. Von Pi kein haben sie gefunden, als eine, was haben mit Nadev gewinn, von sehr Eizi. In dem Beis Amigdosh, nie zu lieb sehr Akkorden, nur zu lieb Akkorden von der zweiten Lieden, Pi, was der zweite Lied, die zwischen sie gewähren, nechet Azene, wo sie seinen gewähren, nicht gedebäule Mewe, betachlis Aschweme. Wo das erhechet bedugma, was hat eingestellt in Sakone, sein Neffen Hamitzius, von blenden Tele für sich, und wir kein sein Mitzvahs für sich, Kedei zu Aris helfen am zweiten Nieden, zwischen sie echet a Sehne, was man zu gedacht bewohnen, in der einfachsten Sachen von Niedigkeit, und wie sie Tage danach gewähnt hat, der Fall ist also gewähnt bei Beisa Suri. Ja, 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 ja,
Rabbi David Dubov, an original born and bred Crown Heightser, Kansiva Hashem Hasabracha, moved to breathe and ignite a whole new fire into Princeton, New Jersey, over 31 years ago with his wife Malki, just a year after they were married. His wife happens to be one of the daughters of Mrs. Esther Sternberg, so big shout out as she's the queen of Neshek. The Rebbe even designed the first leichters that were given out. That's how dear Neshek and Mivtzoim are to the Rebbe. He took out special time of his precious holy time to design a leichter that would work best, that would be safe, and all the different components to it. Now, Rabbi Dubov, in 1991, I called his wife, she gave me a little bio. In 1991, Rabbi Dubov was at a Keynote, and he came home and he said that he heard that the Rebbe said that we have to do all we can to let people know about Mashiach. And that started with, he opened up the Chumash, Bereishis Bar Elokim. He looked up each pasuk that pertained to Mashiach, and he wrote Yalkut Mashiach v'Geula. There's 38 or 39 volumes already on Mashiach from the Torah. Now, while he was doing this, while he was doing this, he also took from Kabbalah, he took from Geula, and about 18, 19 years. It took about 18, 19 years. And along with that, he was following what Reb Leivik was saying while he was in exile. He said it was so geschmack that it was so concise, but he made it, he expounded on it so it could be for the masses, that now a doctor from Chicago, a cardiologist calls him, or somebody that's a lawyer in the Pentagon calls him, because they're so taken by all this. But I want to just add one little story, which Rabbi will tell us all about, all his works and what he does. But there was a bar mitzvah many, many years ago in 770. Why? Because a little boy from their neighborhood, the parents had a disagreement with the conservative rabbi, and they left. But truly, it was a bracha in disguise, because he had his bar mitzvah in 770. He got dollars from 770. Fast forward 41 years later. Unfortunately, he married a guy. And now, recently, hooked on to Torah mitzvahs, the lifestyle, thanks to the Dubovs. Rabbi Dubov taught him Aleph Beis and taught him to read for his bar mitzvah. Now, he only wanted, after all this happened in his life's journeys, he only wanted to marry a Yid. Why? To bring a Jewish neshama to the world. Now, by his bar mitzvah, he got 2 letters. Nobody ever gets 2 letters. One was written to Yaron, and one was to Michael. But this Yaron Michael was the same person. So it may have been from the Rebbe and one from the Maskiris. And one was sent in care of Rabbi David Dubov. These 2 letters were never, ever opened. Ever. Well, now, Malki said, it wasn't even addressed to him, it was delivered. She said, in Mivtzoim and Chof of, they're going to read these Rebbe's letters. Why? The Rebbe sent by his bar mitzvah. Because it will be opened at the chuppah of Yaron Michal. Mazel tov, mazel tov. He's marrying a frum girl from France, and the bracha of Chosid, Yirei Shamayim and Alamdin, is his new mantra. And Malki said that the Rebbe gave dollars, etc., and it's going to be read tomorrow at the Chasana, where the Dubovs will be there and officiating. So Rabbi Dubov, it started with teaching little Aleph Beis and Aleph, a Beis. It says, well, what do I know to give? Rabbi Dubov is brilliant. He knows everything, but he even went down to a little Aleph and a Beis. And tomorrow, they're opening the letter. Both letters were never opened. Poof, on Chof of. Rabbi Dubov, please.
Oh. Good evening, everyone. I would like to start off many of you know this, and many of you perhaps did not hear it, but everyone should know this. When it was the 40th yahrzeit of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, we all know the Rebbe's father passed away in Tafshin Dalet, 1944. Exactly 40 years later, Tafshin Dalet Mem, this is what we heard. The Rebbe came back to his room after Tisha B'Av, and he had a drink, I think a tea. Immediately, he took a piece of paper, and he wrote down like 8 lines. That piece of paper, it was revealed many years later. I brought today, I'll soon explain what it is, a special kuntris, a present for everyone. This is the first time we printed Pirushim from the Rebbe's father in English on the weekly Parshas HaShavua, the weekly portion. And over there we have the Ksav Yad. See over here. And I want to read you what the Rebbe wrote. The Rebbe writes like this, that in a few days is going to be my father's 40th yahrzeit, and that we never ever had such words that the Rebbe should speak about himself. Very really, and such I could say bituyim, such expressions. The Rebbe writes like this: V'alai, and on me, hachoiva schus godol, it's my great obligation and merit, my schus, that what? Le'atzia, I want to bring forth everyone. Ulevakesh, I want a request from everyone. And then he wrote v'chulu, underlined v'chulu, it means etc. And as much as, which means as much as I'm going to write more expressions I'll never finish. That what? Lilmoid b'hayis vadus miterosoi. You should make farbringings from Tezvov, from Chamishos above, which was last Friday, till Chofov, my father's yard site. And you should learn during this vadus miterosoi, from his Torah, ulenadev b'yoyim dein lezechen nishmasa. And everyone should give tzedakah in the memory of my dear father. Now, the Rebbe never, ever expressed himself in such a way, so personal, that it's my obligation as chus, big, large one, great one, to ask that we should learn during the Farbrengen from my father's Torah. So, based on that, I always have the minhag. Whenever I talk, on especially Chafov, to always start with a L'chaim, to bring in the spirit, what the Rebbe himself asked, that we should do it in the Beruach of Isvadus. And everyone who wants to have L'chaim here, you could all say when you come home. L'chaim, L'chaim, L'chaim. You can soon see why L'chaim is so important. So now, I'm going to share with you a little history. And also, many people don't know this. As an introduction, I want to share with you maybe one or two mind-boggling explanations from the Rebbe's father. And one of them will tie into the theme of tonight, of the importance of Hamaiso Ike. The action is really what counts, of doing Mivtzoim. So I want to share with you now a few interesting history. When Rebbe Chana, who we all owe, in addition, of course, she was the Rebbe's mother, but you think about it, the Rebbe spoke about it many, many times by Farbrengens, the brilliance of her, that she went to Chile, she went to Kazakhstan to help her husband, who was in jail. Now she knew there was no Yidden there, there was no shul, there was nothing, can you imagine? They were all alone. She in her brilliance knew that the only thing that would give Rabbi Levi Yitzchok menuchas hanefesh to the extent that's possible would be if he will be able to express the brilliance Torah that he has and to write it down. As you know, a person could be in a private setting, someone could be even in jail, but if his mind is learning Torah the whole time, it brings him simcha. That's the reality. It's a fact of life. So, this is the gewaldige bracha that happened at that time. Rebbe Chana went out, and you know there was no ink. You couldn't get ink. This was the middle of the Second World War. Could you imagine? 1939, 1944. It reminds me of a joke I always tell my balabatim. That one time there was a Beryl and a Shmerel, two brothers. They were Russians, and Beryl left Russia, and Shmerel was left behind. So Beryl asks Shmerel, who stayed back in Russia, do me a favor. I want you to write me letters and tell me everything that's going on with your life. And I know Russia's not so easy. So, well, let's make a code together. If you write in blue ink, I know it's true. If you write your letter in red ink, whatever you write, I know it's not, is Baba Mais, it's not true, it's nicht richtig. No problem. Shmerel agreed. 2 months later, finally, Beryl, who's now in France, he receives a letter from his brother. He was so happy. And he opens it up. It's in blue ink. So happy. And he reads this shuls and this kosher food and there's everything you want to have over here. No problem. The last line it read, I have only one problem. You can't find red ink in Russia. So in Russia, it was not possible, b'chlal, in the middle of the war. But Rebbe Chana, with her brilliance, she went out and she made ink. That's why I have in some swarm you could look, it's printed already, in the margins of the pages of the Zohar that the Rebbe's father had. There's many colors there. Depends on what of the leaves and the herbs that Rebbe Zechana had that you cooked and made ink. But in a certain sense, it gave the Rebbe's father how much the hardships was, which was incredible. But it gave him a nuchas hanefesh, and this is the gewaldige matana we owe to Rebbe Zechana. It shows the greatness of her. Many times people, they're in a hard situation, they give up, this and that, they're depressed, they just complain the whole day. Rebbe Zechana was not like that. Can you imagine, in the hardest time, she went out, cooked up leaves, and she made ink for Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. And now what happened was like this. Rebbe Zechana was scared to take out those svarim from Russia, because it had a Schneerson name. She left Russia under a different name. And she knew by the border, if they catch her, she was so scared they'll put her back in jail, that she left it with somebody in Moscow. Those 3 svarim, which the Rebbe's father had on the side and the margins of the pages, brilliant, unbelievable pirushim. And the Rebbe knew about it. Rebbe Zechana told the Rebbe about it, that I left it in Russia. The Rebbe worked behind the scenes, nobody knew about it. Finally, could you imagine, 1960, Chof Shin Chof, in the month of Teves, the Rebbe received the svarim from his father. Now, we don't understand why. It's a Rebbe Shazach. The Rebbe didn't print his father's svarim till 9 years later, Chof Shin Chof Tes. The Rebbe went to the oil that day, and he came back. It was the 25th yard site. Everyone should know this interesting thing. The 25th yard site from Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. The Rebbe came back from the oil, and all of a sudden, he came back, and he right away said, he gave the green light to print his father's svarim. It took many years to print everything. You have to understand, you have to do the cipher to figure out the writings. If you look, it's not so simple. The Rebbe's father had a certain style in his how he wrote. Now I want to share with you this unbelievable thing. So the Rebbe started, look at the years. Tov Shin Chof Tes, Chof Ov, he started to print. Tov Shin Lamed, the Sefer came out. Tov Shin Lamed Aleph, a Sefer came out. We have 5 svarim. And Tov Shin Lamed Beis, Chof Ov, the last Sefer came out, which I have over here, all the letters of the Rebbe, what he received for 10 years. From when he left Russia, 1928, 29, till, unfortunately, when they took the Rebbe's father in jail. Tes Nisan, the 9th day of Nisan, Tov Reish Tzaddik Tes, 1939. 10 years the Rebbe received letters from his father, and then unfortunately he stopped. So the Rebbe had all these letters, and he decided to print it. Now look at this unbelievable thing. This last volume came out beginning of Tov Shin Lamed Gimel, which is 1973. Now here's what I want to tell you. Everyone should know this. This can be a preparation, Akdoma, which I want to give myself and everyone a wonderful bracha. The Rebbe said these words. After all the volumes were printed, all the 5 volumes, the Rebbe started the Farbrengen. Chof Ov, Tov Shin Lamed Gimel. The whole Sikha, the first Sikha and the second, was about learning his father's Torah. And then the Rebbe said these mind-boggling words. The Rebbe said like this. When it comes Chof Ov, by a tzaddik, his neshama gets an aliyah shebe'ein aroich, which means his neshama gets elevated, what we call in English a quantum leap, not just another step, a level that's beyond be'ein aroich. Then the Rebbe, and especially somebody who had such mesiras nefesh for Yiddishkeit, like my father. Then the Rebbe says these words, not to be believed. The Rebbe said these words. Anyone, this is what the Rebbe said, you can look it up in the Sikh, it's printed now, who, the day of my father's yard site especially, will learn something from my father, he will also have an aliyah shebein areich. So everyone over here who came tonight, you're very lucky. You came for the respect of Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. And we're going to say a word that everyone can understand. And this is what the Rebbe promised by bringing. So we're all, as you know, we're standing on the threshold already. This Shabbos is Shabbos Mevorachim Elul. So I want to wish in that spirit of the Rebbe's bracha. We should all have a gebenchte Jahr, ksivich sim mit Teuve, schon Teuve Mesukah. You all know what you need. You could all think what you need. Say l'chaim when you come home. That you should all have a bracha be'ein aroich. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Amen. Amen. Now I want to tell you a story. Before it's a very important story. Many times I hear people say, I just heard the other day I was in 770, and somebody told us, oh, you're making a chasna soon. And the guy answered, Im Yitz Hashem. So I want to tell you an unbelievable story I heard. One time there was a shliach, he made his whole speech in Rosh Hashanah just about this story. There was once a couple in Crown Heights, in the 70s this was. I don't like to say the word Balchuva, but they only spoke English, let's put it that way. And they came into Yechidus. They had a problem, it was close to 10 years, that they didn't have children, the Chman Litzlan. And they were going through many hardships with doctors, with mices tests. The wife especially was suffering a lot. So they had an opportunity to go into Yechidus. They made up between themselves, we don't care what Rebbe Grona will say. We're not walking out from the Rebbe's room until we get a promise we're going to have a child. That's it. We're going to stand there and we're going to push till we get. This was what they made up. Rabbi Grona let them in. They gave the Rebbe their zettel. And on the spot, they couldn't believe it. The Rebbe said, next year you will have a child. But without making a commotion. Mamish, like, he couldn't believe it. He thought he'd have to make a fuss, a demonstration, who knows what. So he turned to his wife. And I don't know his wife's name, but I think maybe we'll just call her Shoshana. In front of the Rebbe, this guy, he was like so overwhelmed from the bracha, the promise, the haftacha. So he turns to his wife and he says, Shoshana, you heard? The Rebbe promised Im Yitz Hashem next year. This is what he screamed out in front of the Rebbe. And then the Rebbe says these words. The word Im Yitz Hashem means if Hashem wants. That's what it means, Im. And the Rebbe said, why do you say Im Yitz Hashem? You should know all good things the Eibishter wants for Yidden. It's not Im, it's not if. There's no if by the Eibishter. What we need is, say Be'ezras Hashem. With the Eibishter's help. Because many times you have to, there's sometimes we don't understand why, but it's a blockage, you have to bring down the bracha into this world. So the Rebbe told this guy one thing, that all good things, don't say Im Yitz Hashem. Always say, you have a chasne, you have a bar mitzvah, you have a bris, say, Be'ezras Hashem. Chaim l'chaim l'chaim. Now listen to this. Yeah, they had. Now I want to share with you a word from the Rebbe's father, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. I hope we have enough time, huh? What? Oh. Je kent echt zeggen. Wie heet er? Oh, geen. Oh, warte. Meestim gegeen. Oh, warte. Gaan. En even gaan. Now let me share with you an unbelievable word. I share this with you because it's a word that belongs, I wouldn't say it's connected to the kitchen for all the women. Next week's Parsha, the Rebbe's father has an unbelievable pshat in the Gemara. It teaches us also about Mivtzoim. Next week's Parsha, it speaks about the halachos, the laws of kashrus, Parshas Re'eh. We all know a kosher fish needs what? 2 signs. Which 2 signs? Huh? Fins and scales. Excellent. Now, you should know, I live in Princeton. They think the big chachomim I asked them a question, what the Gemara says. They don't know the answer. It's not because I'm a zoologist or I learned science. Ich learned Gemara. The Gemara says a phenomenal thing. You can imagine, unsere Chachamei Zal. They know everything. The Gemara says like this. Every fish, if it has scales, guaranteed it also has fins. That's what the Gemara says. But not every fish that has fins has scales. And it's a difference in halacha. If you find a fish, you take it out of the water, you see it has scales, but you don't see any fins. You should know it's kosher. Or another fish bit it off, or perhaps it was born with a blemish. But the species is kosher. That's the rule. Once it has scales, guaranteed it must have fins. But not every fish that has fins has scales. Comes the Gemara and asks, if that's the case, why does the Torah have to give 2 simanim? We know every letter, every word in Torah is so exact. There's not even an extra word, not even an extra letter. Why do you have to write snappy for? Why do you have to tell me kosher fish has to have fins? Just say, look for scale. And the Gemara answers a very unusual answer. No one knows pshat, I'm telling you, till the Rebbe's father came. And the Gemara says, you're right. We say in the end of Oletzion, every day in davening, Yagdil Torah v'yadeh. That Hashem sometimes made Torah great and he beautified it. And everyone learns the pshat that really you're right, we don't need snap it. The Eibusher threw it in just to give you another sign. That's how the Poshet elementary pshat is. But the Rebbe's father asked that you can't learn like that. You're still not answering the question. Why does the Torah give snappy fins? You don't need it. Just look for scales, kaskesses. Explains the Rebbe's father so beautiful. Rebbe's father says like this. Just like in the ocean, there's kosher fish and there's not kosher fish. A kosher fish has snappy kaskesses, fins and scales. Also on earth, the Eibusher also made one nation. He chose Yidden, Bnei Avram, Yitzchak, Yankiv, Benois, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, all Yidden. And the Eibusher says, explains the Rebbe's father, I would like you to be a kosher fish. I want you to also to have 2 simonim. One is called snappy, and one is called kaskesses. Explains the Rebbe's father like this. What does fins do? Fins help a fish swim. So when it goes in water, the fins help him navigate. He knows where to direction, where to go, and that's how he swims around the water. The scales, that's like a garment, protection on the body. Explains the Rebbe's father, Beruchnis, this is, every Yid has 2 parts. There's Torah, which means learning Torah, and doing mitzvahs. The Torah, when you learn Torah, it teaches you how to go in the world. In Bechukah, you say, Telechu, you got to know how to go. If you're not going to learn anything, you won't know Hilchas Shabbos. How do I keep Shabbos? How do I make Yom Tiv? How do I make potato kugel, Lokshon kugel? How do I make a cholent? So all halachas that you have to know for Shabbos. So if you're not going to learn, learning teaches you how to go. Anyone who doesn't learn at all, you're like going in the dark. You have no fins. So the fins of a Yid is the learning Torah. The more you learn, the more you understand, the more you know how to behave. There's a Shulchan Aruch, there's reasons, there's everything. You want to share? Yeah. So learning Torah, that is a Yid's fins. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, Peirik Dalet, that all mitzvahs, that's like our levushim, that's our garments. Mitzvahs we do with our thought, our speech, we daven, and especially we enclose ourselves, we light candles, and we make challah. All this is called levushim. We dress ourselves with our garments. Those are the mitzvahs for our neshama. So Torah is our fins. Mitzvahs is our scales. Now you'll understand how unbelievable the Rebbe's father explains the Gemara. What did we say before? Every Jew, any fish that has kaskesses, if you have scales, automatically you have fins. But not every Jew, not every fish that has fins has also scales. You can have a Jew, says the Rebbe's father. He tells the Eibusher, I love your Torah, you're so smart. It's as a chochmah, I love it. He tells the Eibishter, I'm sitting and learning your Torah the whole day. I'm not so interested in your mitzvahs. You know what the Eibishter tells him? The Gemara says, Kol ha'oime ein li ele Torah. If a Yid tells the Eibishter, I only want your Torah, but I don't want your mitzvahs, the Eibishter says, Afile Torah ein loy. I'm not interested in your Torah either. Which means this guy, he decided he wants to have fins, Torah, but he doesn't want to have the kaskasas. And the Eibishter says, no, you're not kosher. Ain't not a kosher fish. But if you find a Yid, the Rebbe's father says, even if he knows nothing, very little, I wouldn't say nothing. He knows very little. If you see a Yid doing mitzvahs, guaranteed he knows maybe a drop of Torah, but he has to have some knowledge. I'll give you an example. I have people come to my Chabad house. They don't know what Yom Kippur is. They don't know anything, but they know one thing. Jews fast on Yom Kippur. So they come to my shul and they daven Yom Kippur. But that he knows himself. So I make a joke. I told him, maybe you're a sardines, you're a little fish. But you're not a salmon. Salmon is a gazunta fish. He has a lot of Torah. He's a little fish. But epis hotter. But the fact that he's doing mitzvahs, any Jew you see doing mitzvahs as the Rebbe's father, how would he know what to do? If a Yid knows, oh, it's Hanukkah, I have to light Hanukkah licht. The fact that he knows there's a Hanukkah and he's lighting candles, okay, so he knows something. If he didn't know nothing, then how would he know what to do? Most people in the world, they know they have a child 8 days old, you make a bris. The friest people, I'd say the people that are, unfortunately, they're not so close to Torah. Everyone knows, 8 days old, Jews do bris. The fact that he knows even this, so he knows something. So if he keeps the mitzvahs, if he has scales, automatically, he has also fins. But not every Jew that has fins, that he has Torah, then he also has kaskesas. That's possible. A Jew says, I like your Torah. The same things I want to share with you, my dear friends. And that's why, explains the Rebbe's father, when the Gemara says, Yagdil Torah, it's the whole Gemara in Kedushin. The Gemara says, they asked the question in the Besmedrash, can you imagine? By all the Tanoim and Meroyim in Bavel, they asked the question, what's greater, learning or doing mitzvahs? Talmud Godol or Maisa Godol? And you know what the Gemara answers? Talmud Godol, learning is greater. Why? Shemei v'lidei Maisa. Because without learning, you'll never know what to do. And the Rebbe learns from this Gemara. The Gemara ultimately is telling you the action is what counts. But in order to have the action, I must have Torah. So Torah, learning Torah is a hachona. That's a preparation for the Iker. So that's why it says in the Torah, first snap here, first fins. You have to know how to go, so you need to learn Torah. But then the main siman is kaskeses. You see how beautiful, it's not an extra thing. One goes on Torah, one goes on mitzvahs, and it works so well, beautiful. Some Jew could have Torah, but then he doesn't want to do the mitzvahs. And the same thing is I want to just conclude on a Hasidic level. We're dealing over here, Chof, and the Rebbe's father, of course, wants us to connect to our Rebbe, Chaim. You could have two Chassidim now. And the Rebbe used to talk about Rebbe bring it. You can have one Chassid who tells the Rebbe, you're so brilliant. I like your siches. I like your Maimorim. And that's good for me. You know, I like your Torah. And Mivtzoim, Maisa, to do mitzvahs. I'm not there yet. And the Rebbe tells him, das ist nicht der Chassid, was ich suche. The Rebbe wants a girl, a boy, a woman, wherever you are. We all have a shlichus to spread Yiddishkeit, do Mivtzoim. Ha-maisa hu ikeh. And here you see an interesting thing. Any girl, any boy, any man, any woman, you see b'muchash, if they have a koch, a chayes, to do Mivtzoim, there's no doubt they were inspired by a sikha, by a letter, something from the Rebbe's teachings. Because you need Torah in order to do mitzvahs. It's only a hachonah. But you can have the other way. Someone just has Torah and misses out on the Iker. So I want to wish everyone again, we should all be inspired. Remember what you learn from next week's parsha. Kaskeses is the main sign for making a fish kosher. All of us, we should be gebenched. We should all be kosher fish. And not only stam sardines, we should all be salmon fish. Give the Rebbe a lot of nachas. Asach toire, asach mitzvahs, asach mivtzoim. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Ich kann noch reden, nicht? Amen, 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 amen. Shh. These would like, I brought a very special, what's called a tshuda, gift for everyone. We're gonna, I didn't know, Baruch Hashem, such a beautiful crowd. I have over here a box of, this is the first time in history we printed the covered Chof every, in Chayenu. I also have a video every single week where I give out something on the Pasha, 5-6 minute video. You can see it on COL. And this is a kuntres you have over here from 20 on honor Chof, 20 pirushim of the Rebbe's father in English on the Pasha Shabua. It's a new project everyone can take. Chaim, chaim, chaim.
Rabbi Dubov, your brilliance and your diligence, coupled with your sensitivity and kindness, shines through. Don't think that Rabbi Dubov didn't get drafted to speak in 770 as well for the men. And yet he said, guys, I gotta go. And we kept you waiting, so I apologize. Enjoy the chasana tomorrow, and may you always be benched to taste the fruits of your labor. Yasher kayach gadol. We're doing the raffle first? Oh, possibly. Our special video presentation.
The Rebbe has given us the gift of Mivtzoim. Through this gift, Neshei Chabad brings the light of Mashiach to the world. Women like you, teenagers, students from our schools, toddlers, you will see us in the supermarkets, at the airports, on the subways, on the street corners, at the malls, on the boardwalks, in the senior centers, in private homes, and even in the prisons. We bring Torah inspiration, opportunities to do mitzvahs, make Yomim Tovim come alive, raise the spirits of the Jews as proud Yidden.
The ladies from Chabad who are coming to us, they bring so much joy. It's a pleasure to have them here.
The supermarket on Shipsibed or Avenue Y, Stop and Shop, and from already a good few years I'm going together with my friend Eti Nemes. The most exciting time is before Yamim Tovim. People are so receptive.
This past year, we gave out 1,000 honey jars, 50 sets of lulavs, 600 menorahs, 1,000 dreidels, 600 dried fruit bags, 4,000 matzahs, 1,500 Pesach Sheni matzahs, 600 cheese danishes. Every year it grows, with costs reaching more than $50,000 a year. Many volunteers use their own funds from their pockets.
Neshei Chabad is doing so much, but it's not the same without you. We need your help.
We need to remember that the Moised Neshei Uvnois Chabad is one of a very few Moisdes that the Rebbe himself founded. And the purpose of Neshei Chabad is to bring the light of Yiddishkeit to the world, the light of Mashiach to the world, and to prepare the world for Bias HaMashiach. So let's be part of it.
And I always felt that day, the day of Mivtzoim, the evening was much easier. The children were calmer, supper was ready, and everybody was in a good mood.
I run extracurricular programming at Benos Menachem for the elementary students. And we like to take the girls on Mivtzoim every once in a while, but we often work with Neshei Chabad Mivtzoim who are so helpful in helping us set up appointments with different nursing homes so that the girls can visit and make performances for them, cheer them up, teach them about Yom Tiv. We get brochures and all kinds of materials for them for our older girls who can go on street Mivtzoim. Going on Mivtzoim is very important for all kids, I think, even the very young ones.
In the nursery of Beis Chayamushka, Mora Bela instills in her little ones a love to reach out to every Jew. Therefore, they are so excited to go on Mivtzoim.
My mother, at the age of 80 plus, became like a young soldier for the Rebbe's Mivtzoim. She was a Holocaust survivor. In one of the letters that the Rebbe mentioned to her about involvement in the Sheikh Chabad activities, she replied that she has no chush, no talent for this. And then the Rebbe answered back with the following words. Every Yid, man and woman, can spread Yiddishkeit, especially those who are raised amongst Hasidim. Their Mesiras Nefesh gives them a special schus and blessing.
I call myself the transporter. I transport people, distribute materials. I pick up people from nursing homes or wherever. Sometimes if I don't join in with the Mivtzoim myself, I pick them up, I bring them there. And also wherever I go, I'm always giving out, I call them my Rebbe cards.
I like the words of the card. I believe in the words, what it says. I gave them out to my family and friends. And I enjoyed it.
Baruch Hashem, I got an idea. I thought like how I can do with time, even though I'm busy mommy and I need to do so many things to work and take care of my children. And then I had an idea when it comes up to Purim time or Pesach Sheni or Tu B'Shvat, we have to do the tiny bags. All the family we sit together and we just put all the stuff in small bags and make it like nice and neat. So the women that go to Mivtzoim can give it out, and we are also part of doing Mivtzoim.
I like to go to either the nursing home or the senior centers, and I like to speak to them, to the people, and I like to play music, mainly with my recorder. And this way I have a feeling that they get more of the information absorbed intellectually and emotionally.
Hooray. Zeh. Chava. Just got back. Yes. You're willing on giving it a try? Really? Oh, that's great. I'm so happy. Next Tuesday morning. Be ready at 9:45. Wonderful.
Ever since I was a little kid, we were brought up that the first thing we take with us wherever we go is Mivtzoim. And they want it even more than we want to give. They appreciate it. And I find that wherever I go, when I take Mivtzoim with me, it just changes the whole atmosphere around. And I feel like I'm there for a purpose. Sometimes we think we're going to the doctor's office, the park, the zoo, wherever we go, that we plan it. But really, when we go with Mivtzoim, Hashem makes it that every single person we meet is pure Hashgacha Pratis.
My name is Ari Stuck. I'm a director of recreation in an adult daycare. As well, I do recreation in an assisted living home. I'm working with Neshei Chabad already approximately a few years. It's just been really wonderful. Every Yom Tov, they're always bringing, for Shavuos, they're bringing flowers. Shabbos, they make sure that every woman has the electric candle, especially during COVID where nobody was able to go downstairs. They were sending just boxes of electric candles, countless emails, sending flyers on every Yom Tov, on every special day that the residents can keep up to know what's going on in the facility. Because of them, many women are lighting Shabbos candles. If they didn't have those electric candles and they wouldn't be able to go downstairs, they would just not be lighting. We have our library expanded tremendously. We have a lot of new books that our residents really enjoy. I think this is an amazing organization. Even for me, it's very inspiring.
When you go to an old age home, it's a different style, it's a different type of Mivtzoim. I feel like there's something even more special about it. I feel like they need simcha and hope in a way that maybe other people don't.
We started to go to Great Neck, Federal Turkish Center for Iranian Community, and we decided that we want to give them some information about the Shabbos, the Chagim. So I decided to print the information in the language of Farsi and bring them candles. I bring hope to this to these people, and it's amazing, wonderful feeling. I think everyone has to do that, and at least 1 hour, even in a month, they should do it. Just do the Mivtzoim.
One of our very special projects and innovations during the Corona time was to establish libraries in around 30 to 40 different centers. It was an amazing idea, an inspiration for all of these people. Books of Hasidus, books of stories, Tehillim, prayer books. Rabbi Greenwald shared with us a little story. He told us that he has a resident that's from a very secular background. She absolutely refused to light the Shabbos candles. But then she looked in one of our libraries, in their center. She chose a Sefer Tehillim and Tales of Tzaddikim. And then it happened. Her heart opened and she began to light.
You're here to light up another person, so how could you be intimidated? And if somebody says no, so what? Nothing happens to me when somebody rejects me. I don't become somebody because somebody accepts me, and I don't become a nobody because they reject me.
Als in Teile steht, nicht aber niemand bis am Migdash beyond. Ist kiele kach wie kach. Stellt mir sich vor, beschaß, was Nisra bis am Migdash. Und dabei steht da Jid, was ist ein harter Ried, ein strenger Ried mit allein woher. Und seht, was ist der Chore bis am Migdash beyond. Wollt also gekehrt der Welt. Sagt Teilas Hemes und Teilas Chaim, Iroba Chaim. Kehrt